yes, just inform you that this session is being recorded. So if you have any concerns, you can turn off your camera or change your name. So if and we will delete this first section when I'm explaining this part. But otherwise, I suggest we start. So hello again, my name is Mateusz Strauss. I come from a company called Arctur, where I'm a Heritage Plus lead, meaning that I lead all the activities related to heritage, cultural heritage and digitalization. And today we are going to talk about immersive technologies in sustainable cultural tourism. So connecting tourism, culture, and technology. Before we continue, maybe just a few words. So yes, I come from Slovenia, from a company called Arctur. We are an IT company located on the border with Italy, and we are most known for our supercomputing center. The high-performance computing center that we are having is basically our main asset that we are using for implementing different technologies of Industry 4.0 that we are transforming and bringing into tourism, cultural tourism and cultural heritage being one of the aspects of tourism. So while doing that, we understand that the point of technology is not just to strengthen or just to amplify the developments in tourism, but to rethink them. And our main thoughts here are, or our main approach is that tourism should work for the benefit of the local residents and not necessarily only tourists. So if we have local residents in mind while developing tourism, we can create sustainable tourism where the positive effects outweigh the negative ones. So today we're going to talk, as I said in the beginning, about immersive technologies, tourism, and especially I like to talk about examples. So most of those examples will be examples where we as Arctur have been involved in either our projects or the projects of our partners with whom we have collaborated in the past. So we have around 1 hour for this session. If you at any point want to interrupt me, if you have any question, if you disagree with something that I say, please interrupt me. So I like this to be interactive as much as possible, and I'll also adapt my my speech to your questions. So before we continue, maybe just a bit about you. So I've set up the Mentimeter here. So you're invited to go to menti.com, write in this code, and then basically the first question that I have for you is, what sector are you coming from? So you can use the Mentimeter if any of you for some reason doesn't want to. You can also unmute yourself and just say it. But it's more to get an impression. Well, what's your background and how what your interests are. Yeah, I see. Okay, that some of the people are still just joining the session and we are admitting them. Okay, but I see a quite even distribution among public sector, private sector, and non-governmental sector. Public competing against the non-governmental, 4 against 4. But yeah, okay. Just for a first impression, I think this is an indication also for me, what to present, and maybe especially look at the public or non-governmental aspects of the project that we have been developing and that I'm presenting. And then the next question that I have here is related to how familiar are you with digital experiences in cultural tourism. So basically, what is your level of knowledge, let's say? Mm, okay, somehow familiar. Okay, somehow familiar. I assume that I don't need to then explain the basics. What's the difference between virtual reality, augmented reality, and things like that? But probably not all of you have experiences in developing such tools. This is how I would assume. Okay, I continue. Um, I start with the challenges, of course, and I think that we can all agree that tourism has had quite a few challenges in the last few years. Um, First, we've witnessed the over tourism effects across Europe. Venice introducing radical measures, radical, let's say, put it in quotation marks, measures against tourism. And then with COVID-19, we felt, or many of these destinations felt the effects of under tourism. So where all of a sudden they've lost the income from the tourists and they've suffered considerably. Of course, this happened to them during COVID, but there are many destinations across Europe that are always having a lack of tourists. So they want tourists, they are developing tourism, but somehow they're just not attractive anymore. Somehow they're not attractive, not anymore. They have never been, maybe, for various reasons, of course. Maybe it's the location that is, let's say, not the most reachable. Maybe it's the story that they're telling that is just not resonating with the target audiences, or for any other reason. So, but what we're also witnessing is that also the tourists or the visitors are changing. This search for experience, not so much on observation, is a trend that we are observing everywhere. So the search for um, uh, being like the locals, again, putting in quotation marks, and not just being one of the in a crowd observing what is in a way performed for the tourists. There's also this blend of education and entertainment, the edutainment. So this is another trend, let's say, that is here for quite a few time now. So it's not so recent. And what is maybe more recent is the increase in new digital content, whether it be 360-degree images or videos, something that has been massively popularized with Google Street View, but also 3D. So 3D is becoming more affordable, more available with recent developments in software for 3D scanning or photogrammetry. Creating a 3D is not it's not rocket science anymore. So many of the destinations already have 3D models, either of smaller objects or of some buildings. And these are more and more reused in destination marketing. So I think that if you're somehow familiar with digital technologies, you can also agree that digital technologies are of help in telling the stories of the destinations, of telling the stories of cultural heritage at those destinations, because they're in a way adding a new layer of content, a new layer, digital layer, which can be interactive, which can provide more story, it can be more engaging. So this is basically what we want, right? We want that in a way the physical locations out there are communicated in more engaging and interactive way. And yes, I think we can all agree that digital technologies can be of help. Of course, any of such project is not just a technological project, it's a combination of different expertise. Although I'm coming from an IT company with a high performance computing center, I'm always saying that the technology is a tool that we are using. The most important element in developing such experiences is, in my opinion, storytelling, the story that we want to tell, or the experience that we want to create. But of course, to do this, we need to understand technology, and we need to also understand the limits of the technology. So I'm often using the term digital storytelling in that context, which basically means that we are combining words, images, sounds, videos to tell the story. So storytelling, it's a how to say, it's part of our civilization or our culture from almost the beginning. But digital storytelling is, let's say, rather recent. So digital storytelling is something that, as any storytelling, it creates this emotional connection, can create emotional connection. The digital one can also, to some degree, personalize the experience. It can offer interactivity, and it can be data-driven. And I'm always saying can be, because, of course, not all cases of digital storytelling are personalizing, are creating interactivity, or are data-driven. It really depends on, of course, what the aims or what the purpose is. And yes, in that world, we are using several of the media. You've probably heard about augmented reality applications, different VR, and so on. Here we have listed just a few of them. The images representing them are maybe a little bit cliche. Of course, the holograms don't necessarily look like this, but just to give you an insight of what it could be. And in my opinion, always when we are talking about digital technology or these new media, it very much depends what our target group is and what our aim is. So the use of that media is, of course, dependent on those factors. Here is a nice matrix which tries to basically explain how different media is appropriate for different target groups or for different types of presentations or exhibitions that you're making. Virtual reality it's a great tool, but not for everything and not for everyone. And the same can be said for interactive screens, for example. So all of these things that I'm now presenting, I know them, I'm going rather quickly through them, are part of the handbook or the guidelines that we have prepared. I will also share with you the PDF to them. So we have them in Slovenian and in English, so you can, let's say, more take a look at them more deeply and try to, if you find them useful, of course. So again, another chart. I'm trying to always to explain that, of course, digital technologies can be used in that pipeline of cultural heritage, old tourism, cultural tourism at several stages. But today we are mostly focusing on this last part, on presenting. So on engaging audiences, on presenting culture or cultural heritage or cultural tourism experiences to wider audiences. So we are not so much, we're not focusing on capturing data so much. So this is also something that across Europe, European Commission is promoting a lot. Maybe you've heard about the Twinit campaign of this year and last year, where all of the member states in Europe have been 3D digitizing emblematic elements of cultural heritage in their own countries as one of the steps towards the goals that have been set in the Commission's recommendation of 2021. And here I have listed just the recommended target numbers for 3D digitization of cultural heritage in Europe until 2030. And I don't know how familiar you are with the status of the number of 3D models that your country is having, but in general, these are very optimistic and very high numbers. So we still have lots to do to reach those targets. But okay, I'll skip some parts. So before I continue with the cases and some of the thoughts, I would start with another question is, I'd ask you, what are your thoughts on digital experiences in cultural tourism? And here we have it as an open-ended question. So your comments, your ideas, your feelings, your maybe past experiences. If you have, please just write a short comment, a short question. And again, if you feel, you can also unmute yourself and just say it out loud. And don't be shy.
I would say accessibility, definitely an issue. We have done something on VR as some kind of 360 postcard of ordered by municipality, and the way how the beginning idea was really positive, and wow, we'll go very wide with the QR code, not necessary wearing headsets, so you can do it with the phone. But finally, somehow, it seems like it's still early for majority of the people to accept the media. They get fascinated, but they don't sink into it. So that's
okay. Maybe I just continue and okay, I can see here the answers. Okay, virtual museum tours, digitalization for disabled people. Necessary to implement them. We can get more audiences, which is maybe contrary to what Istok said just before. Not feasible in the short time. Okay. Okay. And then I have a next question, basically and this is a question, just on a scale from strongly disagree to strongly agree. To what degree do you agree that cultural tourism can benefit from digital experiences? Okay. Somehow agree. 4.2 is the average. Okay, we continue. So for the next few slides and examples, I basically have prepared sentences that I often hear and that in my opinion, can be misconception. So or let's say are actually wrong. So one of the sentences that I often hear is that digital is a replacement for physical experiences. So this is this is when let's say a destination is afraid that implementing virtual reality will decrease the visits, the physical visits of their site. And I still hear this a lot. Maybe after COVID, less and less, because in a way, COVID has changed this perception, but still I hear it a lot. And I want to give you one example where it basically we've tried to show that this is not the case. And this is the case of a project from Posavia. It's called the e-Castles of Posavia. And basically the main idea here was to present 7 castles in Posavia region. Posavia region is a region of in the east of southeast of Slovenia, which decided that will be famous for castles. I wouldn't say that the number of castles per capita is considerably higher than in any other region of Slovenia. But this was their, in a way, branding wish or branding target to be known for the castles. So we've set up for them a digital room. We call it a digital room. It's basically an interpretation room, which presents those 7 castles, but not at any of those castles. So it presents those castles in the spa resort of Čatež, which is the main touristic attraction in that region. It's a spa resort with pools, with lots of families basically coming there. And I think this was our attempt, of course, to reach as many people as possible. So to go to the place where the tourists are. So we've set up this room, which is comprised of 2 holograms, 7 virtual reality glasses, and some interactive screens. And basically, we're presenting the castles here in that room. And this is an example how we've created an experience about the castles. But in many ways, this is there's many information lacking in that room, and this is intentional, because the intention is not that people learn everything about the castles in that room. The intention is that they get hooked, so that the kids who are jumping in and out of the pools at some point get to this room. It's free of charge, the entrance. They enjoy the castles in virtual reality, in holograms, and so on. And when there's the extra afternoon that you want to spend somewhere not in the pool again, the kids will say, "Hey, we want to go to the castles because we've experienced it in VR and so on." So this is, in a way, the logic behind it. So to provide something that is attractive, in a way, from the information point of view or from the museum point of view, it's lacking a lot of information. But it's intentional. So this is then the room. Inside you have the holograms with some information, basic information, and then there's a information person, like someone providing information, and they invite you to use a special app, which basically guides these people to the castles, to one of them or two, many of them, and you at the castles you have to solve some mysteries, some simple quests, and you get a small award for it. So this is the logic, and what I wanted to show with this example is that the digital in that case is, in a way, an addition to the physical visit. So you still need to go physically to those locations. It is promoting physical visits. So one of the this is the point of this case. Then secondly, what I often hear is that hardware is so expensive. And yes, if you want to have a holographic projection which is human size, probably it will be an expensive hardware. Virtual reality glasses, for example, used to be expensive, maybe not so much anymore. But still, if you want to have a whole bus of school children experiencing virtual reality, you will need a lot of virtual reality glasses, and yes, it will cost a lot. But what I wanted to say is that there are also examples where the hardware doesn't have to be expensive and can still be interesting. And this is something that we did recently as a test, as an experiment, basically in Idrija, in the west of Slovenia, where we've created holographic postcards, and I'll play the video. So we all know postcards, the, in a way, traditional way of having a souvenir or sending a souvenir somewhere. In that case, we have created postcards, physical postcards, that also have a digital element attached to it. So basically, they're like classic postcards with a nice image, a short description. But once you scan the QR codes on the back of it, you, of course, get more information about the location. But especially, you get to see the hologram. And this hologram, you see it in this small plastic pyramid. And I'll explain the whole story later. So, as I said, it's a small package of postcards with more information on the QR code. In the package, you also receive a small plastic pyramid. This plastic pyramid costs less than €5. It can be even cheaper if you are willing to, let's say, go for lower quality. But basically, what you see inside is a small hologram. So this is an experiment how to work with 3D, how to work with the fancy words for very low investment in hardware. And I think this is also one cases where we've proven that the people still get this wow effect. They still very much like it. They're surprised because they don't know what to expect in it. And in a way, it's so simple from the technological point of view that even the people who usually don't are not so fond of technology, in a way, understand it and enjoy it. Another sentence that I often hear is, "I don't like VR glasses; they make me feel sick." And when I hear this sentence, I'm just like, okay, but it's not the fault of VR glasses that you feel sick. You know, it's what you developed. It's how you developed the tool inside, and especially in many cases, VR glasses are not appropriate. Maybe they've been used for a wrong purpose. So I present here to you an example where, in my opinion, we could never achieve the same goal with any other technology. So this is the story of Velenje and the Šalek Valley. For those of you who don't know Slovenia, this is a region, it's a coal mining region with 3 large lakes there, which are artificial lakes. So they have been created or as a consequence of the mining process. And in that process of creation of these artificial lakes, 7 villages were demolished, and people had to move out because they were basically in the area where this where the surface started to collapse. But today, most of the visitors who visit the site don't understand that these lakes are artificial, because it looks very much natural. So decades of years have passed, and as I said, it looks very much natural. But we still wanted to tell this story of those villages, and especially the people who lived in those villages. So we've created, it's a whole day experience that starts in the mine. You get a tour of the mine, which is not a classical tour of the mine, because it doesn't focus so much on the technical aspects of mining. It focuses more on the lives of people, the lives of miners. And it also presents this story, how the lakes appeared there, why they appeared, and of course, how the houses, what were the effects of mining on the houses, and how basically those villages were demolished. After that, you go back on the surface, you go to the lakeside, you enter the boat. The boat takes you somewhere into the middle of the lake, and you get virtual reality glasses there, and you virtually descend into the lake. So basically, you go into the lake virtually. We've recreated the villages. Those villages today don't exist anymore, of course. The surface has changed too much for those villages to still be there. So, but we've managed to recreate them using old photos, especially memories of people who used to live there, because this hasn't happened so far ago. So people who were born in those villages and grew up in those villages, they're still alive. And we've recreated this world. And this, in my opinion, is one of the examples how we can tell the story of these villages with this virtual descent on a boat in a very unique way that it's very hard to replicate in any other medium. Of course, we could show them a video, we could tell a really engaging story, but being on a boat with VR glasses and virtually diving under the water, this is very unique experience. And in that case, it's non-interactive at all. So basically, you're watching a 360-degree video. Of course, we don't want people to move too much on the boat, and it's a short experience, a few minute experience, that it leaves this very special effect on people. And this is also why, in my opinion, the whole product that is now still in function after 3 years since we have created it, it's still they're still selling it. It's also still receiving many awards. Just a month ago, they've received another award, international award for it, because it also tells a story that is not a romantic story. It tells, in a way, a bitter story in a very contextualized way. So it really explains the whole context of the experience. Okay, another sentence that I hear is that size doesn't matter in this context or in any others. But another example that we have is from Isola. In Isola, we wanted to present the history of Isola. And Isola, maybe again, for those of you who don't know Slovenia, Isola is a town on the coast of Slovenia, in Slovenia on the coast. And as the name suggests, it used to be an island. So Isola in Italian means island. So for most of its history, it was an island. But today it's not an island anymore because it has been connected with mainland. And the visitors of Isola don't really feel this, don't really understand or don't know that it used to be an island, because you don't see physically, it's very hard to see the distinction between mainland and what used to be an island. So, but we still wanted to tell this story. So how do you tell a story long a few thousands of years about an island? What we have created is a projection mapping. So we have created a physical model of today's Isola. And this model is in one color. It's in gray color. But what we are then doing is that we are projecting the video from a top. So above this model, there are two projectors that are projecting animated video, 8 minutes long video of history of Isola, and there you can really see how for most of its history, it used to be an island. You see the main legends of Isola, you see the main happenings. There we explain why at some point people moved from mainland to island, but also why at some point they've merged island with the mainland. It's supported by a narrator who explains the story. There's music that have been created just for this presentation, and each of the 8 chapters has its own music. So it's really, in a way, an experience that, again, comparing with any other media, for example, a similar story could be told in a format of a documentary, but here in 8 minutes, being in a dark room with only this model being in front of you, lit with music, with narrator, it really moves you into this story. So this is, for example, in my opinion, why size matters. If this would be smaller, or in any other medium smaller, for example, on your phone, it would have much smaller effect than it has now. Another thing that I often hear is that digitalization is banalizing our cultural heritage, so that it's making it banal. And I want to, at this point, present one example from our partners in Spain, from University of Jaén in Spain. They're working with archaeological findings of the ancient Iberians. So a tribe that used to settle the whole Iberia to nowadays Spain. So they're basically 3D scanning their archaeological findings, and they're 3D printing them. So all what you see here are basically 3D prints. And they're using that in their work with children, with schools. They're creating puzzles, so 3D puzzles. So children have to put pieces together to create the whole object. And in many ways, this is a very interesting tool how to talk with young people, with children in that case, about cultural heritage, about the archaeological findings. They bring this element of tactile feeling, so the chance for children to touch the objects, to assemble them, to look at the details, to turn them around. This is, in a way, providing much more interesting experience, learning experience for children than, let's say, a book with a historical book with, or like a school worksheet on heritage wood. So I see that it's not that these digital elements that here we have digitalization and then 3D printing, that they are making our cultural heritage more banal. No, they're creating deeper understanding of cultural heritage with the right medium. As always, it depends on the medium that you're using. And in some cases, this is some media is better than other. Another thing that I often hear is that heritage is not fun. Here, our partners, again, in 5D culture project, we have been experimenting with filters. You know, filters from from Instagram, for example, or Snapchat. And in that case, our colleagues have created an app, augmented reality app, in which you can try different different hats. These are all historical hats from the fashion collection, and of course it makes the whole experience fun. But in that fun process, you're also learning many things about these hats, about the history of those hats. They're not just any hats; they're fashion pieces, actually historical fashion pieces. So if you want to try it out, you can always scan this code and try a Vivienne Westwood hat on your head. And for example, our colleague Marco trying the app, learning about the different hats from the collection, making selfies and so on. So in that way, yes, we are making a fun experience with cultural heritage, but in a way we are also informing people a lot about those pieces that would otherwise probably just be stored in a vitrine somewhere and with a short text that nobody would read. Another comment that I often hear is that digitalization is antisocial, so that it's making people antisocial. And this is, again, an example from our 5D culture project that we're just finishing now with our partners. Here, we've been working, our partners have been working with Sound and Vision from the Netherlands. Again, a fashion collection from the Centraal Museum, mostly from the Centraal Museum in Utrecht. And what they have created is a social experience that I have a video. That doesn't work. But basically, they have created a virtual reality experience that is, in today's words, we would say multiplayer. So several of the people can use virtual reality headsets, but they're all together in one space, meaning that it's social. So I have virtual reality glasses, I enter the exhibition, let's say in Den Haag, in the Netherlands, but someone else can enter the same experience from Rome. So this is how the people meet virtually, then inside of the same experience, in the exhibitions, again, trying these different dresses inside. And of course, in a rudimental way, this is making people connect and talk to each other, as I said, in some rudimental way. And these are the cases that I had. I would like to, at this point, invite you to website I show you one more video of an example how now I have been presenting to you different case studies, but most of those case studies from Slovenia have been part of a bigger initiative that was supported by the Ministry of Economy and Technology, and in a way fostered this thinking that cultural heritage is not just a cultural element, but it can also be a tourism element, and that we should be blending these two aspects. And I'll play the video. So in 2019, the ministry basically decided to go for this mission, and they have supported destinations across Slovenia to 3D digitize cultural heritage in Slovenia and create digital experiences out of it. So in many cases, it started with the digital capture of cultural heritage sites. And these were different sites. So in the mountains, in the cities, castles, churches, housing units, monasteries, cemeteries, industrial buildings. Many of them, again, yes, were castles. And all of those have been 3D digitized in high quality, so the 3D models can be used both for documentation and for presentation. And in many cases, we have created reconstructions of the past statuses. So working with historians to create 3D models of how things used to be centuries ago. But the point is in creating this new media, creating experiences that transfer this digital content to the publics. Whether it be through interactive screens, virtual reality, augmented reality, as I said, holograms that you have already seen. Different interactive screens, object recognition tables, or just simple web apps that show 360-degree images. And many of those cases, as I've already said, are collected together in a document that I will share with you also. And many of the 3D models, or actually all of the 3D models that have been created, are visible at the website. It's called Dijk de Picasso, or in English, DIDK.si. And this is where the 3D models are. You can actually access the 3D models. You can, the aim is that you reuse the 3D models in your own experiences, if you have the knowledge or if you have the software skills to do it. But of course, this is just the 3D models that you see here. If you want to actually experience the experiences, you need to go to those locations. You need to be a tourist, because this is at the end the point, to foster digital visits, and not to be a alternative for these physical visits. Maybe just a few words that we're often hearing about sustainability. And of course, the dilemma is digital sustainable. And in my opinion, it's not necessarily sustainable, but can be sustainable. It very much depends on the energy source that we are here using, on the services that you're using. Are they your local server in your own office that is usually using too much resources, or is it a larger farm that has optimized the energy usage a lot? So, for example, in our case, we are the energy that we are using is partially renewable. We have solar panels above our data center that, at least to some degree, during the day, cover the energy need. A lot is about reducing the consumption, as I said, with well-maintained hardware, with efficient software, but also thinking how can the experiences that we are creating reduce the need to visit areas that are fragile. I'm not saying that people then stay at home and visit some places from their homes, but this is the case for using, for example, virtual reality in interpretation centers that don't require people to visit the physical sites. That, for example, in archaeological sites, there's many dangers of damaging the sites and so on. And yes, always have in mind not just the tourists and not just the profitability, but also the involvement of the locals, of the supporting the local initiatives. So we feel this to be very much important. If you hear another chance, yeah, to change your thoughts on this statement, is cultural tourism beneficial for can benefit from digital experiences, and hopefully I've convinced you at least a little bit that it can. My last question basically is, how do we continue from here on? We have almost spent this 1 hour that we had together, but I'm willing to share with you the presentation, share with you the materials, talk to you individually, organize similar events, or anything else that you feel fit or useful for you. So yes, we will share the presentation. And if you want to consult me individually, please do. I see that I don't have an email written anywhere, but we have your emails, so we will contact you with information. At this point, I just return to the very beginning and just say that it was my pleasure to be with you here. If anyone has any immediate question, maybe now we still have a few more minutes to do it. If anyone wants to comment.
I will comment.
Yes, yes.
I want to see it live, you said,
Yeah.
you create this sensation. I think that's quite essential, because we have done dance in where we are adapting dance performance in a 360, and then it was always a question, what do you prefer, this or that? In one point we decided, no, we are going to do it only VR. We are going to separate. So that what we did in VR didn't exist in reality. And what is really nice, we can go with this program. For example, for kids, we can go to their classrooms. We can go to their privileged places. They don't need to come to the theater for whatever reason. If they can't, we can come to them. And with dancers, we can even later, when we remove the 360 chairs and headsets, we can go to the gym and they can try physical experience physically with dancers. So it's both, and it's also with
I agree.
You get maybe more people to the theater. So that's it fights against that digital is antisocial. No, it can be very social if it's organized in a social way. Of course, technology is made for the one way, like one-to-one, but it can be a social event as well.
Yeah, I agree.
It works well.
Yeah. And in many ways, it's how we decide how to use the technology. And the example that you give, yes, it's a great combination of using the technology for the right purpose in the right way. So yes. Any other comment, maybe?
Question?
If not, yeah, go ahead.
I mean, if it's nobody, guys who went with the boat to the lake, they were wearing the headsets and they were sitting still. But that was a 360 program, or
yes, it was
did they turn? Did they turn? They could turn around or not?
Yes, they can turn their heads around.
Yeah, headsets.
So they can see the underwater. They can see from in all direction, but they cannot set the course of the, let's say, their movement. So they cannot decide in which way they dive or in which way they swim. The course is preset, but they can, yes, see 360
And the software that you used for that, was it Showtime, or to connect all the
in that case it's Showtime? Yes.
Mhm.
Yes.
Thanks.
Okay, if we don't have any more questions, I will share with you the presentation, my contacts to reach out to me if you have any more questions, or if in any other way I can be of help. This session was part of Cultural Detour project, supported, of course, by the European Union, and supported also from the Interreg Central Europe project Capacity to Transform. So thank you all also to the funders, and especially thank you, the listeners, and hopefully we stay in touch. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.